Everything you've been told about burnout is wrong. I know because I've told some of it. Grown latchkey kid, come here, honey bun. We need to have a talk. I have a doctorate, 2 master's degrees, and I've spent over 20 years training and coaching well over 15,000 people. From Starbucks to the Southern Poverty Law Center, from Noom to the U.S. Embassy in Berlin, I've been in just about every room. I know what it costs to keep showing up. And what I know, what I've watched up close for 2 decades, is that burnout is a word we use when we're not ready to say the real thing. This is for the grown latchkey kid, the one who's been running on empty since before she had a word for it, the one who's been so satisfied with her dissatisfaction that she stopped noticing how much of her power, her time, and her money she's been giving away every single day. You haven't been burnt out since last year. You've been burned out since you were a teenager and probably before that. And nobody told you the real diagnosis. This isn't burnout, it's disappointment. I want you to think about your Saturday, not a special Saturday. Last Saturday, you were up early running everyone from pillar to post. You cleaned. You grocery shopped for the week ahead. You did a favor for someone who asked, maybe two, maybe three, because saying no didn't even occur to you as an option. You were tired, but you couldn't take a nap. You couldn't actually rest. And at some point, you looked around for someone to do something because that felt easier than sitting with yourself. Maybe you worked out. Maybe you journaled. Maybe you meditated and you called that me time. But even your me time was structured around output. You weren't resting, you were doing rest. That's not burnout. That's an account that's been overdrawn since childhood. Here's what the word burnout gives you: a treatment plan that doesn't require you to look at anything real, a vacation, a face mask, a mani pedi. You scale back for a few days. You sleep in. You feel human for about 48 hours. And then Monday comes and you go back, right back to the same life, to the same yes, the same empty account. Because burnout implies that if you rest just enough, you'll be ready to return to the life that drained you. That's not healing, that's maintenance. That's keeping a machine running that has needed a real conversation for a long, long time. This isn't burnout. This is disappointment. This is frustration. This is the distance between the life you imagined and the life you have. The quiet devastation of how far apart those two things actually are. And it's not urgent to you anymore. That's what scares me. You've gotten so comfortable in the discomfort that you've stopped feeling how uncomfortable it actually is. Burnout sounds like something that happened to you. Disappointment with your life sounds like something you have to do something about. And that's exactly why you choose the word burnout. You remember fashion plate, those little kits where you'd put paper over the plate, run a crayon across it, and suddenly, honey, you had an outfit. You had a vision, a whole one. You knew exactly what your life was supposed to look like. The wardrobe, the shoulder pads, because this was an era of shoulder pads. And honey, we weren't playing. The career, the relationships, the version of yourself that was fully expressed, fully present, fully chosen. But that's not the life you have. Somewhere in you, you know that. Somewhere between the fashion plates and right now, you traded the shoulder pads for yes. Not because someone forced you, because you were a latchkey kid. You read the room before you walked in. You knew what was needed before anyone said a word. You made yourself useful, reliable, indispensable, because that's how you knew you had value. And that's how you stayed safe. And it worked. Everyone rewarded you for it, called you strong, called you capable, called you a leader. And you internalized all of it and made it your identity. And now you can't say no, and you hate it. And instead of looking at that, instead of sitting with the real cost of the life you've built, you call it burnout. Because burnout lets you stay. Admitting you hate your life requires you to move. I call it the grown latchkey kid operating system. And I want to describe it to you so you can recognize it in yourself, not as a diagnosis, but as a mirror. The hypervigilant, the way you can scan a room before you relax in it, the overfunctioning, doing more than your share without being asked, and then resenting it quietly. The people pleasing that you've reframed as being a good person, the inability to say no without a full explanation and an apology attached, the way you put yourself last and call it being selfless, the way you wake up already tired because you went to sleep thinking about everyone else's needs. That's not your personality. That's a program you wrote in childhood when you needed it, when the adults around you needed you to be okay, when keeping the peace was actually survival. But you're not a child anymore, honey. And the operating system is still running, still making decisions on your behalf that your adult self never signed off on. Choosing yes when you mean no, choosing familiar when you want different, choosing the gray because gray is known and known is safe. Are you going to keep letting a program you wrote at 9 years old run your life at 45? That's not a rhetorical question. I actually need you to sit with it. Here's the thing that keeps me up at night about the people that I work with. It's not that they're suffering. It's that they're satisfied with their lack of satisfaction. They've made peace with the gray. They've accepted the distance between who they are and who they wanted to be as just the way things are. And every day that passes, it becomes a little more normal, a little more acceptable, a little harder to remember that they ever wanted something different. You are not in crisis. That's the problem. If you were in crisis, you'd do something, but you're fine. You're managing, you're handling it. And handling it has become its own kind of prison because nobody rescues the person who seems okay. And the world isn't making this any easier. War, more racial and gender animus than most of us have ever seen in our lifetime. A political climate that is exhausting to navigate, even when you're not directly in the crossfire. You're absorbing all of it in your body, in your nervous system, in the decisions you make every single day while still showing up, still delivering, still being the person everyone counts on. Joy is not a luxury right now. It is the infrastructure that makes everything else possible. And the longer you treat it like a reward that you haven't earned yet, the longer you tell yourself you'll get around to it when things settle down, the more that account stays overdrawn. What are you waiting on? I mean that sincerely. What specific thing are you waiting on before you decide that you're worth this? Okay, I'm not going to leave you sitting with all of that without giving you something to do with it. Here's what I'd tell my bestie if she came to me with this. First, name it correctly. Stop calling it burnout. Get specific about what it actually is. Is it gray? Is it empty? Is it the quiet devastation of a life that looks right but doesn't feel like yours? Is it disappointment, frustration, the gap between who you are and who you thought you'd be by now, the right word matters. Not for anyone else, just for you. Burnout points you toward rest. The real thing points you toward something that actually changes something. What's the real word for what you're living in right now? Say it just to yourself. Say the real word. Second, watch the operating system for 1 week. Every time you say yes this week, ask yourself one question. Is this a chosen yes or an automatic yes? Don't change anything yet. Just watch. The automatic yes is the program running. The chosen yes is you. Start learning what you actually sound like when you're choosing, because I promise you, it sounds different. And that difference is everything. Awareness before action, always. Third, run your number. You don't know what this is actually costing you because you never calculated it. I built a free tool, the Yes Cost Calculator, that puts a real dollar amount on what you've been carrying. The automatic yes, the vicarious trauma load, the weight of what you absorb every day just by being alive and paying attention in this world right now. When you see your number, and I mean your specific number, the gray line stops being a feeling and becomes a receipt. A receipt demand a response. That tool is inside the Grown Latchkey Kid Survival Kit. It's free. The link is in the description. Go run your number and come back and tell me what it says. I actually want to know. Burnout is a cop out, not because you're not exhausted. You are, but because you deserve a diagnosis that actually leads somewhere. One that asks something real of you instead of just giving you permission to rest and go back. What are you actually doing to light the fire of your life again? Not a face mask, not a long weekend. What are you actually doing? That's the question. Not mine, yours. Sit with it. The Joyful Leader Reset, the joy of no, starts April 1st. 14 days, $147, 40 spots. If you ran your number and you're ready to do something real about what it says, link is in the description. I'm Dr. June Christian, the Grown Latchkey Kid Auntie. Subscribe if you want to keep having conversations your other subscriptions are too scared to have with you. Fit that.